It's the Stranger Nerds here. We have a two-man show today with myself, Connor Vandermark, and our wonderful Tommy Grant. Tommy, how are you?
Thank you, Connor. I'm doing just well. Happy I don't have Rona like poor Mitchell.
Yeah, he's all right. He's just coughing and fevers and stuff. So wish him well. He'll be back with us hopefully next week. For because he's missing the intro of season 4, the premiere, the Hellfire Club. Of course, the Duffer Brothers write the premiere and direct it. Uh, yeah, so we're diving in, and uh, this is definitely I'm excited for this season. And as me and Tommy had a conversation, I believe off air last week, how this one is a little more D&D focused, and
Very D
I
focused.
I am excited for that because I love nerdy shit. Um,
And as my former DM, I know you would definitely appreciate this season, so I'm excited to get into it.
I did mention something because I'm actually kind of happy that I did lead into it last week. Let me just type it up real quick. I believe so. I did mention something that I believe I'm happy I brought up because of the fact that they did start talking about the Satanic Panic in this.
Hmm.
And he did, and we'll get to the new characters in a second. Um, but there, I did mention something because I play a trading card game, Magic the Gathering. I don't know if people ever heard of it before. It's an older game, but it's very fun. I do enjoy it. I got back into it within the past year thanks to some of my colleagues. And I did mention that there was in Magic something similar went through, and you're interested in about that. There are two great YouTubers on like the history of Magic. I think it was Spice 8 Rack. He's from the UK, trans dude. He's awesome, and he really dives into how they're long video essays. So something that you can definitely put in the background and like listen to and like
Hmm.
dissect with him. But like he talks about how that Satanic Panic really kind of rolls into it. I will if I find the link, I'll bring it up on next episode. Tommy can remind me for that.
Yep.
Um, but it's definitely a because this is the 80s and the satanic panic version for magic happened in the 90s. So it was kind of interesting seeing how like they relate both of them together, and the fact that Wizards of the Coast, the owner of now both series of D&D and Magic, because of that they have a very much intertwined backstory with each other.
Yep.
And definitely check them out. Yeah, so Spice A-Rack when it comes to history, and like he's very knowledgeable and he does his research, gets his sources, and awesome stuff. I have learned so much about like because again, let's be real, like the people making magic, especially back in the early '90s, bunch of white guys like
Yeah.
myself, and like but like that the way that we see culture and society as a whole, and I will get more into that in a little bit, where cultural appreciation and like not understanding taking respect to the actual cultures, he really dives in and actually dissects it, and he's willing to get his hands dirty and actually do the reading of how we see things and how it could be misappropriated and honestly disrespectful to how we should see cultures on today.
Yep.
So yeah, that's definitely a plug. He's awesome. But like awesome stuff. Um, and the reason I bring societal changes is another thing I mentioned, that is the fact that we have a lot of that going on with our wonderful characters in this season. So
Yep.
ending from season, so we have like, so Elle said it was like 180 days about there that they have not seen each other.
Yeah, I think it was about 5 months, roughly, from the end of season 3 to beginning of season 4.
So this is so literally the first thing that I noticed in this season, and again, these are taped at different time periods, but how much Elle's voice sounds so much different.
And that also kind of goes into play of how much older they're getting. 'Cause
Hmm.
this did take. I'm trying to think the release dates for this compared to season 3, but it's definitely been a good chunk of time in between seasons. So they are getting older, but we're also getting, for the character of Elle, she's kind of progressing. Like she's finally in a stable household again.
Hmm.
She's not just with Hopper in a cabin in the middle of the woods getting a word of the day sort of education. She's actually around people and in actual society now. So she's
Um,
starting to learn concepts and words, and she's kind of like the dumb kid, but she's kind of adjusting to society again.
Adjusting isn't the I would say the right word. I would say integrating is the better word because
Sure.
her interaction with society has not been strong in the first place. Her interaction is literally the party. That's it, and that ain't much. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Like she's very much going to be skewed to that kind of lane in the first place because let's be real, she's a bunch of losers,
Yep.
and that's her people. That's all she knows.
And it's kind of funny, like season 4 and season 1 are very connected to me in the sense that season 4 I feel like is the season they kind of like revert back to season 1 with a lot of concepts and themes. One of them especially is Eleven's character. Season 1 she was kind of on her own in society, but she had one person who was Mike kind of guiding her through everything. Now she's kind of back on her own again in society and the world, and she has Will who's kind of guiding her through and being kind of her, comfort person to help her out. And it's just
I have to ask the question because Mitchell's not here. I get your opinion. Is he bad in the season two?
he definitely has a lot more screen time. I wouldn't say he's bad, but
Is it tolerable? I'm assuming it is, but like,
he's tolerable. But they also do a lot more character development with him this season. They
so
sort of
he's
hint at it a tiny bit in this episode.
yeah. So he's just a wet piece of paper this time.
Yeah,
But with that, yeah, that 11 was a big one. I think so. The one that I feel most connected with is definitely Lucas,
yep,
because of the fact that I was someone who was I had that kind of same identity crisis that Lucas kind of did, or does, where being someone who is a lot more sporty and like let's be real, hockey is definitely my first love. But at the same time, like I always had interest in video games, in D&D. I started listening to a very famous, popular D&D podcast called Critical Role. Um, I started listening in high school. I was a sophomore, and that was I just put it on the background. I was like cleaning my room or something. But I always
you
enjoyed.
got me at the Critical Role.
Oh, I did. I didn't realize that. I this
Oh
again.
yeah,
This is a while ago. That's right. You followed when I was visiting Tommy last year back at his place. I did show him they had the series that was on Amazon Prime, I
yeah.
think it was, and it was the season of the first two seasons of Vox Machina. Um, yeah, it's just so long. Like if I could, it's one of those things like you wish for more time. That's
Yeah,
one of the things I wish I had more time so I could just like no, I can spend 4 hours a day just actually take it in and enjoy it all
yeah.
because I have so many other things I need to do other than regular obligations, but like hobbies and stuff, and I just feel like get pulled
Because
in
we're
different
adults and
directions.
we're stuck at work all the time.
It isn't just work, but like it's more so like I have so many interests. I have hockey, I play Magic now, and um, other things like doing stranger things, doing this podcast and stuff. Like
Hmm.
or and again, football season's about to start too, and like I'm going to dive into. I'm ready to listen to my fantasy football podcast as well, so I'm all over the place right now. But definitely Lucas, like I feel his struggle because that's something that I had to deal with was no, because let's be real, everyone wants to be loved and popular and stuff, and like I always very much like I was an athletic kid to the most part. Like I had to work for what I had, what I got, but at the same time, like no, I still wanted to enjoy interests, and this is something that even when I was in what fourth, fifth grade, that I was still having conflicts with. Um, so this is something where I definitely felt for him, and no, I was very grateful that growing up, that especially our junior year, we actually had a good close knit friend group of. I think it back at least the Demons and Misfits, but not really. But like it was a
We
mosh
were
podge
misfits.
of people from all different kind of the best way that I would put it is genre of high school tropes.
Yeah,
Uh, no, me and Tommy were both athletes. Tommy swam, I did hockey. Then you had guys who were more on the academic side. We had guys who were just more goofballs. Well, we're all goofballs, but like it was such a nice mishmash of characters that it just worked, and it was something
Yeah.
that I even to this day I'm very grateful of, because I think my high school experience would have been much different in my junior senior year if it was not for that.
Oh yeah. But
Um,
we also support each other. I mean, we went to happier hockey games. Like,
mhm.
this is something that, I mean, we see Lucas and Dustin, not Mike and
Mike,
Dustin, going to Lucas's games, but it's like then they have the conflict of, well, do we do the D&D game or do we go to Lucas's game? And
yeah,
Lucas wants them to postpone. And
I thought it was very funny when Mike and Dustin were like postpone the game. I'm like, duh, dude, nah, like that ain't happening.
it's,
there
it's
is
not how
so
it,
there
it's
is
not how
so
this
many
works.
more issues with that than you could think.
But
Oh,
I thought it was funny how Mike and especially Mike, Dustin's kind of been the same throughout all 4 seasons, but now that Mike doesn't have L next to him at all times, he's almost resorted back to season one Mike, where he just wants to be with his friends all the time, playing D&D, and that's all he wants to do.
mhm.
And he's kind of resorted back to that. So now it's like it's Lucas's moment to shine and kind of branch out, and Mike's like, "Dude, like, what about us? Like, we're here too."
Yeah,
And Lucas just
and
wants to do his thing.
we will get that a little bit later.
Yep.
Then we have Max, which I will go into more of a deep dive later on.
Oh yes.
Max dealing with her trauma, no, and how her whole family situation, and how I would say, some one thing that I'm really curious is just like overall context of how Max would have been different if Elle was still in the area.
Mm.
Because I think Max really made a close friend with Elle, but her not being there anymore has affected it even more. Um, and then we have Joyce also dealing with the loss of Hopper, and then we also have even like Hawkins as a whole is very much changed, because there were so many deaths, and like, no, the cover up this fire. No, I don't know how they covered up like that, but
Yeah.
damn, like
It-
that's a
it's
lot.
kind
Like
it's kind of like,
everybody went missing conveniently. Fire.
yeah, conveniently fire, and not to mention all the military personnel and helicopters that showed up. Like, yeah, that was just for a fire.
Yeah, sure. And with that one, with stopping the new characters, we have Joseph Quinn as Eddie Munson.
He was
Uh,
at the top because he is my favorite character of this season.
yes, he is good. Good first impression so far. Same with Eduardo Franco
Yep.
as, I'm going to pronounce this right, Argyle.
Yep.
He's the one with the pizza truck, right?
Yep.
Fucking love
He's
that.
your typical California Cheech and Chong character.
I saw that. I was like, him rolling up, and I was like, "Let's go!" Very, very much. First thing I thought of was uh, the Toy Story Pizza Planet.
Oh yeah, Pete's Planet.
Yeah, I was thinking of one of those like delivery trucks from like the Pixar throw-ins. So we have Mason Dye as Jason Carver. Is this the basketball player?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not great at names, so I'm just making sure I make connections.
Yep.
Miles Truitt as Patrick McKinney. I don't think we ever got Patrick.
He's in the next episode, but he's another basketball player.
Okay. I think we got a glimpse of him. Okay. Um, Grace Van Dien as Chrissy, our wonderful cheerleader, and Jamie Campbell Bauer as Vecna. Well, it kind of spoils who our villain's name is, but
Yeah.
for once, our villain actually is a person.
Yeah.
So that is something that is very. When I first read, I was like Bowser, like, oh, that's fitting, but no, it's just Bauer. um, so good old Vecna. I probably should whip my D&D book sooner or later. We do that. We do that next episode.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's going to get more into depth on that. I feel like I'm missing someone here.
There's a lot of new characters. These were kind of like the highlighted ones that I picked out.
Um, the one that I was interested in is the one that was with Robin and the band, low key
With
flirting.
Vicky,
Vicky.
the one who you thought was the character from season 1 that died.
Yes, yes. So yeah, so I thought that Vicky was originally Nancy's friend from season one, and that's kind of like when
Right.
she actually died. I was like, wait, what? She's not coming back? What? So that was actually a pure like that screwed me over a little because they look very similar. I can definitely see that redhead becoming this redhead in the future. So that was something that really did
It's a little
threw me
back
for a
to the
loop
future
there.
action. That's all.
That was very funny. Um, that was very funny for me post afterwards. So we'll get find out who plays Vicky, because I feel like there's something important with her as well. Um, so while he's looking that up, so we have our opening scene, and we have which really did shock me is that Dr. Brenner's back, and I was really curious who that was at first when like in those intro moments, him doing the crossword puzzle. Uh, Amy Beth McNulty. Thank you. Um, so that's Vicky. Amy Beth McNulty is Vicky. So Dr. Brenner, uh, his ugly mug is back, and I was saying I was really curious who that was going to be in those first kind of interesting shots. Like honestly, I thought it was going to be Joyce to start out, thinking like, oh, this is the new house they're in. This is how they're going to start the whole season out. No, roll you nice and smooth, and then it's like, oh, wait, we're actually in the past. And so we see Dr. Brenner going through this morning routine, goes to the Rainbow Room. We see all these kids are using the telepathic powers. I like the little shot of them looking at the rainbow on the floor, and the kids are pushing the cars along the rainbow with the
It's just your
powers.
typical 80s childcare.
Oh yeah, of course. Um,
No
so we meet.
demented experiments going on here.
Yep. So you meet 10, who uses a magic 8 ball to show, like, oh, is he willing to participate in Dr. Brenner's current activities? So he's doing a training session with them. And on the way over to them, we see 6 with, it's not right now, sure, but I think it was like Dr. Elizabeth. I'm going to say Dr. Elizabeth for the time being, or Lise. Um, so we see 10. He's training them, going through, okay, do you see the sun? All that fun stuff. And then it's like, oh, let's do it a little harder. What is Dr. Elise doing? It's like, oh, she's with uh, she's with 6. And then turns out that he actually sees the murder of these 2 people.
Yep.
And Britta's like, the hell is going on here? And then he hears a screaming outside, all the commotion, and then the door gets blown off his hinges, knocks Brenner out. He comes to, 10 is dead, and this is something like very much like, um, the the scene. I won't say the scene, but like the vibe you get from like Resident Evil
Yeah.
with the blood on the walls, the body strung about. Like that was very much the vibe that I was getting on that. Like that kind of, I know it's like a current. This is what's happening in current time.
Yeah.
But that was very much like a vibe. I was like, oh, this is just creepy as hell. You can see him going through the trauma he's dealing with, and like, seeing like because they're real. Like even though they're all named, like he still cares very much deeply in his own sick way about these kids.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he goes in and he walks down, sees all these kids, and we go there and we go into the Rainbow Room, and yeah, we just see one lone child standing there, and yells, "What have you done?" And pretty much this is the reason why we have not seen any of the kids other than 8, which is MIA at this point.
That I'm still unclear on. That was never really made sense to me because
8 was that one little no, what do you call the like now? Rocky has that 5-minute clip of him training. That's pretty much it in season 2. Montage, yes, exercise montage. That was its purpose in season 2.
But it's odd though because we know 8 was there as a young child, and obviously 11 has grown up a little bit since that timeline. But they don't explain when or how 8 escaped. So I'm assuming 8 escaped prior to this happening, but they don't really give any details on that.
And 11 too. Like that's something I'm assuming they're going to get into a little more about. Like, was 11 still in the building at this time? What? Because I know the door. There is a shot in the scene where that door is closed and it does say 11 on it.
Hmm.
So like I don't know the deal with this because it looks like that whoever this missing child, though, who this child we don't know. Like I was like, it didn't look like 11 to me. Um, like whoever this child is like, did it keep 11 on? Like, what timeline is L in this when it comes to the whole situation? Did it happen before? Did it happen after? I don't know. That's one question I still have that was still unclear to me.
Well, the child did turn around in the episode.
No, I understand that, and that to me that didn't look like L to me. It could be her. I don't know.
Okay, I'm trying to remember because I don't think they said who the child was in this episode, so I won't say who it is.
Yeah, did not say who it was.
Okay.
The only thing that we had of L, what wasn't even of L, was the door. That was it.
Okay.
They was never explicitly said this is L because like I don't know. Like I feel like that they would have done things differently. Was if it was L, like the reveal of her.
Perhaps.
Again, I don't know. So to the present day now, and we're going to do things like we did in earlier in the seasons, where we can go through each of the different taglines of plot lines of each character arcs, and then once you get to the end, we will, I assume, coalesce all together as one.
Yep.
So we'll start in California, where we're in the lovely and Lenora Hills. So this is about 5 months after the Byers' departure to Hawkins. So if you don't remember, Elle is now living with Joyce, Will, and Jonathan. Jonathan is now a ripping pot smoker, which, yeah, you
Did you
typically,
see that
yeah.
character development happening?
Well, once it happened, like, yeah, it makes sense.
It fits his look.
Yeah, and then this is where we meet our wonderful new friend Argyle with his
Hmm.
wonderful pizza truck.
So,
So,
quick little fun fact about Argyle: the Duffer Brothers named him that was inspired from Die Hard.
oh,
Have you seen Die Hard? Correct.
yes, I've seen Die Hard.
All right.
It is a
So
Christmas movie.
the limo driver that basically befriended Bruce Willis's character and helped him
Yep.
out throughout the show, his name was also Argyle.
Oh,
So they named him Argyle basically because he's their driver and helps them out. There
that's
you go.
actually very funny. I like
Yeah.
that.
It's a little fun fact about Argyle, but continue.
So we learn Elle's making her a school project as Hopper being her hero. When the project is like, oh, different heroes over time. Um, so we see Joyce is now working home as a home telemarketer selling encyclopedias, which is very funny to me because that was a big rate back then.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
I always think of the Friends episode where the encyclopedia salesman talks to Joey about trying to buy an encyclopedia.
I'm not a huge Friends person, so I've never seen that one.
All right, well, you have to watch that episode. I'll send you a link for it.
If I get around to it. Uh, so Will has picked up painting and something that he's not sharing to the whole class or to anyone really. And I do like how Elle is going through like this is her very much like a 80s movie like well she's the main character in the situation and like she's talking to her letter through Mike and it's
Yep.
everything's through her first person perspective. So he's just like, oh, is Will making something for a girl? Who knows? Um, and then we have Jonathan being a bothead, and then she paints her picture of life being perfect. However, as we can see in the background, I did make this on my note on my phone where you can obviously like she's getting bumped around. She's not really liked. That's real. She is very much the loser in the area,
Yep.
going with the kids. And I was taking L here. So L is very much a sore thumb, I guess you can say, in the school.
Yeah. I mean, when you've been raised in a lab and then your other social aspect was from Hopper, who's not exactly the most social of people, you're not going to
Mm-hmm.
have the best personality going out into public.
And I will say this too, because the fact that I know you took some psychology classes, like in your college courses,
Yes, I do.
and was that your major at one point or no? I forget.
Oh God, no, I'm not that
No,
smart.
I know. Our mutual friend Rudy, his degree is actually in psychology, um, and that's what I wasn't sure that you had some psychology stuff too. Um,
Allie was a psych major,
that's what it was. I knew one of you two were.
not me though.
For you who doesn't know, Allie is Tommy's wife.
That's my amazing wife. She is
Yes,
a psych nerd through and through.
she definitely is. Awesome person. So, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because the fact that one, I know, I never took the course, but like I've took cognition, like the way people think and stuff, and um, if I've taken it, if I child psychology is something where there's a lot of people who go really in depth on. There is an actual course for it. I wish I took it, but from our readings of like my general knowledge, and it definitely would seem like the here too, is that like I think it's very interesting, and I think it's very smart that Duffer Brothers are using Will as a foil for L here. And the foil that I really want to describe is how uncomfortable L is and not used to this dynamic. Because someone like Will, who has been quote unquote part of the loser club his whole life,
Yep.
he's grown into that mold. So
Yeah.
I want the mold's not the right word, but he's grown into that where he understands his societal role as in the school dynamic of like, yeah, I'm not really liked. I will get bullied on. It's going to happen. No, just kind of keep my head down and keep going. And you can kind of see here where Elle is kind of thrown into the fire instead, where
Yeah.
all her interaction has been is with the party. So she's always been relatively light. No, she had some tuffles with Max a little bit when they kind of became friends with each other, but like overall, we have seen that there's been a general acceptance of her.
Yeah.
But now, when we see her in the public at large, she's not. You can see her trying to be friendly to people. She's trying to fit in, and it's like oil at water at this point where she just keeps getting rejected, and you can honestly see the animosity of an outside kid, at her.
Yeah.
Um, and no, and I think Will's trying to. He's like, oh, that wasn't that bad because Will probably has gone through that shit before, and
Will is probably the only other character that has just as much childhood trauma as
as
11 between
that too, yeah,
the abusive household, being taken captive by the fucking Demogorgons as a child. Like, I mean, the kid's gone through a shit ton of abuse.
I that's a great
Back,
point.
coming back from this quote unquote dead, according to the public. Like the whole town basically saw your body, and now you're back from the dead. So it's like he went through all that bullying during season 2. I mean, he's got a lot of trauma.
But hold on, I want to flip that though because we also can see Elle as a foil for Will here because of the fact that trauma is all Elle knows.
Hmm.
Will, excluding the stepfather shit, that can be a headache in its own right. But Will's real huge trauma is him doing the Demigorgon, and
Yeah,
no, we can kind of as seen as an experiment more as a person per se. As Elle has always been, oh, I am known as 11. That's my name. There was no humanity with that.
Yeah.
Will is having an issue of, I won't even say losing part of his humanity, because of the fact that people don't see him as human in the first place. Talking as zombie kid, like,
Yep.
it's hard for someone to explain how, because who lives as that? And I do think the Duffer Brothers do a good job of like kind of laying the groundwork. Because like, yeah, this is such a weird situation, and of course, kids are gonna pick on him because of that. Because let's be real, what kid wouldn't?
Yeah.
And no, because generally speaking, whatever nail is sticking out of the ground, people want to hammer right back in. And how they do that is making fun of them and making sure that they stay in line.
Yep.
You're weird, you stay in your area.
And Will was able to use that to his advantage because this is just as big of a fresh start for him as it is for L. He's
Mm-hmm.
now in a school where he isn't known as Zombie Boy anymore, and he has a chance to kind of, you know, become his own person. But he's stuck as L's friend, who is basically the biggest loser in school. So he's just trying to keep her afloat and realize like, hey, I've been through this. Now she's going through what I've been through. I need to help her out.
One more thing on L before we switch topics on this. Um, did Jim give L the name Jane? I forget about that.
No, that's her birth name.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's from season one. Look at
So
that, people.
she took her birth name and combined it with Hopper's last name because he was basically her adopted father at that point.
Okay, cool. It wasn't really clear because, like, no, we know that Joyce took her in,
Um,
but she,
Also, because that was also Dr. Owens got Hopper the birth certificate at
that's
the end
right.
of season 2. So that
That's right.
technically she's legally Jane
Jane.
Hopper.
Yeah. I forgot about that. That I heard the name, like, that
It
sounds
all ties
familiar,
back
but like, yeah.
together.
No, I was like, it was definitely weird hearing her being called James. Because
Yeah,
let's be real, no one else called her that ever
yeah.
for its 3 seasons.
We all know her as L.
Yeah. Um. So let's talk about Jonathan real quick and Nancy,
Hmm.
because that was a weird interaction when we have that kind of split scene. Them talking to, I feel so bad for Nancy, that weirdo, just talking like, no, that geek. I always say weird is not the right word, but like a very geeky kid who is infatuated with Nancy
Yes.
and hoping to get lucky. Let's be real.
And
And
honestly, for a minute, it made me forget that Jonathan. I think he's still in high school, right? Or is he like he's still in high school?
I
Because
think so. Yeah,
it
I think they're
throws me
both.
off because I thought last season I thought they were out of high school because they were working for the paper.
I think they were interning there.
Okay.
That's how I understood that. They were like, it was like a summer, like, kind of internship. This is the job just to make some money.
Yeah.
Um, because we could see, because we already know Nancy's early accepted,
Yep.
and I
And
think
Jonathan's waiting for that.
I think
So,
John's the same age as Nancy. It's just
yeah.
that Steve's a year older than both of them.
It threw me off because again this is my first time rewatching season 4,
Mm-hmm.
so it's been a while since I've watched it, but I always forgot that they weren't in college yet; that they were still in high school.
Yeah, this is their senior year now. Um, so sorry, lost your train of thought there. Yeah, so we had that weird interaction. It was like, oh, they both love each other. Now, let's be real, it's a long distance relationship right now, and it's being strained, and people are prying because they never met the other half of the relationship. So
Yep.
things are being tested. Um,
Oh yeah, and they're both being very anxiously awkward about it. I don't even know how else to describe it. Like
so
they both want to see each other, but they both don't want to see each other, and they're kind of doing that thing where they just don't talk instead of just simply having the hard conversation and getting it over with.
they need a good
They need a Murray talk.
they need a Murray talk. Thank you. I was getting there as couldn't pull the name out of my ass right there. Yeah, they need a Murray talk again. But again, they're high schoolers, and like I'm not surprised. Argyle also making the pot birdhouse. Like
I love it.
they were leading so hard into it with him. Like
Yeah,
I was like, okay, it's a little too much, but like, but
it's
also
the '80s California kind of vibe.
it's a good gag. It's a pretty good gag. Um, so we'll see what happens with them. Um, and then also I'll do like the scene of Mike barging into the news conference room.
Oh
That was
yes.
that was great. That was great. Um, so and then the other part of this, the because Will's kind of tied with L at the moment.
Yeah.
Let's say the third rung of this ladder is Joyce, and Joyce received a creepy package while she's on one of her phone calls, and you can see the wonderful Hamill and that thingamabob with the blade.
The thing about Bob with the blade. Yeah.
Yeah, the wonderful Hamill and sickle, um, and so opens up and it contains a doll, and I don't know about you, I hate dolls. Like those old ass dolls, creepy as hell. I want to nope out of there.
Yeah. No, I have to say those and the Raggedy Ann dolls were always creepy to me as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Still are.
Yes.
Um,
I went thrift shopping and I saw one of the Raggedy Ann dolls. I was like, nope, no, thank you. Or
they
even the
just
creepy
remind me
ones.
too much of like Annabelle and Chucky. Like they
Mm-hmm.
just look, I don't know, that they would wake up and murder you in your sleep.
Yeah. To me, it's the old Victoria ones are the ones that really get me. Those are the ones that
You
are
know they're
like
fucking haunted.
they're possessed and haunted. I'm like, nah. Like I'm not a superstitious person, but like it's more so the vibe of them. Like,
Hmm.
nah, no, thank you. You want to freak me out? Old Victorian dolls and clowns. Those are your two. So we get this package. It's a porcelain doll that comes in. Joyce contacts Murray and asks, "No, what the hell's going on? I get this from Russia, obviously." And Murray's like, "You sure you got it from Russia?" I was like, "Yeah, I got it from freaking Russia. Like, you tell me information I already
Got
know."
Russian writing, Russian stamps, everything.
Yeah. So Murray decides, okay, you should see if anything's there. He's like, okay, there's a crack in the porcelain, and it's like, okay, we should break it open. So, but make sure no, there could be a bomb in there, so you just
Yep.
be serious away. She's a paint can, and she's going to drop in this thing. Meanwhile, the neighbors are looking at her. I'm like, oh no,
Poor
not
Joyce is still just the weird neighbor. She just.
not again. Oh, I was like, yep, there goes George at it again. No, new town, same old song.
Yep.
So the doll smashed. Murray's is very worried
Very
that she's
animated.
yeah, animated and worried that like, oh, are you okay? And then Joyce finds a note in there that says Hop is alive.
Hmm.
Uh, I didn't really get a clear shot of it, and I'm hoping to find out next episode what actually it says because, oh, excuse me, um, because of the fact that there was more writing on that note that I want to dive into, and
Yeah.
I want to know the deets.
You'll get the deets. Don't worry.
Anything else missing from California? I think it's everything we want to cover.
Yeah, that was it. Um, Nothing much happened there. Just a lot of setup stuff for next episode.
Perfect. So, uh, now we have our wonderful high schoolers now in Hawkins. So, we are going to start with. We'll start with Dustin and Mike. I think that is a good starting point to jump off of.
Yeah.
So, I looked at like the intro scene of Susie changing the grade for or hacking and changing in the grade, and that's
For Latin.
the from Latin's tough. I learned a lot from Latin, but it's a tough class.
Yep, I never took it.
But the scene I'm sorry to put in the show notes. The scene of Susie looking at the Jesus and saying, "Oh, I will repent for this later," and then changing the grade. I'm like, wow, that's some love right there. Good for her.
Yeah. Well, I think because they're kind of hinting at it, but she is a Mormon. This is no spoiler by any means, but she's a
Okay,
Mormon, so it's very heavy. Obviously, they have very serious rules that they follow, so that's what they were kind of hinting at there.
she's from Utah. Of course, she's a Mormon, especially in the '80s.
Yeah, I mean that in itself should have been the big ticket item of she's a Mormon because she's from fucking Utah,
Yep.
Salt Lake City, Utah, of all places.
Mm-hmm. So we had that funny exchange. Also, why change to an A? Just make it a B so no one throws any flags up about it, or like no, like I would not change it to an A.
When
Like
in
that
Rome, Connor. When in Rome.
exactly. You gotta blend in.
If you got a hacker girlfriend, let her hack your grades and get them to A's.
But the thing is, like an A in Latin, if I'm already getting a D minus, looks obscure.
It does,
Blend
Connor.
in with the crowd. Blend in with the crowd.
They didn't learn.
Do we have the scene of Mike trying to get his pants on? No, his sister got 30 seconds now. Let's go.
Typical older sibling. I've been there before. Get my brother ready to school. Back in high school, because I drove him because I was the nice older brother when I could drive. Like, let's fucking go. Get in the car.
And Mike doing freshman high schooler shit as always.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, that's also a good point here. Robin is a senior, I guess.
Yep.
Um, and Steve is also graduated. Steve is the loner weirdo.
This was the one thing I really liked about this episode is it kind of put into context how old they all are. Because
Yeah,
prior to the season, we've had many discussions. We never exactly knew how old any of them were. We just had guesses. Now we at least have confirmation what grade they're in.
yeah. And we go. So Robin gets dropped off, and then we have this big old pep rally where all the gangs pretty much together. We see
Yep.
Lucas, who is now on the basketball
The
team,
basketball team. He is
and
no longer part of the losers club.
and honestly, like when I saw him, I was like, okay, that makes sense for to be a like story wise, for it comes to like characters and stuff. Like, yeah, basketball being seen is a lot easier than football. Less
Yes.
people need it.
Well, not even that, but just also for set purposes too. We've already
Yes.
been in that basketball stadium, that
Court. Yeah,
courtyard,
for
whatever you
the
want to
dance and
call
stuff
it.
like that, or I was in middle
Yep.
school, but still, like it's been used as a prop already.
Yeah.
And I do love how Lucas is sporting the Patrick Ewing high top fade haircut. I'm like, let's go!
You
I
can
love
rock
it.
it. I love it.
He rocks that real well. I was shocked. Also got a what's the guy from Hey Arnold with the tin can head hair?
Oh,
I also got a vibe of
wow.
that too.
Wow. All
I think
right.
it's
Hold on.
Eugene. That's my guess. Yeah,
Talk about a fucking 90s callback,
I
buddy.
know, man. That was I liked Hey Arnold. That was a good show.
It was
So
Gerald Johansson.
it's Gerald.
Yep.
That's yeah. What's his nickname though? He's definitely his nickname.
I'm
Sorry for the
just,
dead air.
I'm,
He's googling it up, but was he called Gerald
yeah.
in the show? I don't remember him being called Gerald.
Hey, I haven't seen the show in forever.
I haven't either. I always
This is
remember that big old football head and that tin can of a hair.
this is what Google is telling me. That's all I know.
Well,
When in doubt, listen to Google. It knows everything.
so we get our first conflict. Well, I mentioned before when it comes to this whole society aspect is we have Mike and Dustin realizing, oh, this is a championship game, and Max trying to explain how sports work to the boys.
Yes.
And yeah, it's a championship game that is going to be played on the same night that their party, led by our wonderful DM, Eddie, where they're going to wrap up their whole semester long campaign. And with them falling the same night, the boys aren't happy about that, and they have this confrontation with Lucas, like, "Hey, no, what the hell, man? Like, no, we're gonna miss something crazy." And Lucas, like, "Guys, I can't miss this. I need to be here. Can you please come support me?"
Yep.
And I do love
Well,
the comment of Dustin and Mike's like, "Just tell your coach to move the game,
yeah.
move the game, Mike, move the game,
But
Lucas." And I'm like,
however, in Dustin and Mike's defense, they did bring up the point of he's a bench warmer. He has not played all season. Would he really be missed? Obviously, we find out, later on that he would have been missed, but it's like, I can see their point. It's like you just sit on the bench all season. Why not just come do something with us and not have to? make us skip.
Okay, so I'm on Lucas's side here.
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
I understand that. I'm on Lucas's side though because of the fact that, especially it being a championship game,
Yeah,
your boys have to be
you
there.
gotta be there to support the team.
Your boy's got to be there. He's been there the whole season. If it was like, oh, we're playing this nobody school in the middle of the season, yeah, fine, kid. Like, no, you have you can have a doctor's appointment that day or whatever. Like, you can flip out of that one. You, as someone who's coached before, like you can make a good enough excuse. I wouldn't give a D&D game an excuse, but like you can make a lie up to get out of that.
But they had a
And
battle of Vecna.
yo, yeah, that's real going to sweat for me there. So we finally meet this wonderful talked about player, character Eddie,
What a
who
douche.
is the DM of our wonderful title name, the Hellfire Club, which is a group of no Mike and Dustin and Lucas accordingly as well.
Yep.
And then we have Eddie, who looks like he is 20 years old because
Uh,
it sounds
from
like he got held back twice.
yeah, he's definitely up there in age.
He's senior plus two.
Yeah, he,
Uh,
he he's your high school version of Van Wilder. He's your high
okay,
school Van Wilder. He
that,
just
that
likes
makes
hanging out
sense.
in high school.
So we have this wonderful introduction scene of Dustin and Mike trying to convince Eddie to change the date.
Oh, just the whole conversation before they even get to the table. Eddie's giving his whole speech because forgot
That's
to mention
true.
I was reading the whole satanic panic in the
Yes,
newspaper.
yes, he's reading about that.
Bring
How
that
like
in.
the Newsweek is covering that. Like, oh, all these people are scared of it, which this was a very real
And I
thing that
love
was
his
happening in
speech.
the.
He gets up on the table and he just starts shouting across the room at everybody, like, unless you're in band or in the game where you toss a ball into a laundry basket, and just yelling it, calling out every single click in the cafeteria.
Yeah,
And they
he
just go, "Oh, he's
he's
really prepped up today."
he's literally someone who does not give a shit, and
No,
like, and at this point, again, if you're held back for 2 years, it kind of makes sense.
yeah,
Um, but like, there was like to me, there's a line. He definitely crosses that line,
yeah,
but yeah, that's just who he is. At least to how I see it. He's just like it's to a point there is no filter on him,
yeah.
and he's just going to say whatever he's want to say, and that's going to be it.
He
And
he's accepted the fact that society is going to turn their back on him because of how he is and what he likes, and
yes,
he's accepted it.
and then we get this, and I think the best way to like his foil would be the I didn't mention in the pep rally is the captain of the basketball team where he goes as his rant on the in the pep rally where it's very much we get his name again because he said like a few times Jason Carver,
Yeah,
where Jason goes as a rant like oh like this like as someone who's played sports I was like what the hell is this shit like this is like
that
oh
was the most.
for the people in the fire for like calling Hopper's name out is like this like
He's like that stereotypical good old American boy who's got all of his parents' wealth in his pocket, and that was the most cringiest speech I had ever heard, and it literally makes you want to hate him, which is I think why they wrote it that way.
yeah
But there's just not an ounce of that person that you want to like or respect. You're just like, this guy is a fucking douche.
yeah very and I it really hit home was like I'm not liking this and I feel bad I've like even Lucas was like the fuck like
Yeah,
I know they were all intimately aware and like no who knows what the average no IQ of this
yeah.
town is because they're all eating it up and I'm like this is just like
And it was an interesting choice with what they did with Hopper because in the early seasons, Hopper wasn't very well respected by a lot of people. He was kind of looked on as lazy and that kind of stuff. So I'm curious as to how that quickly shifted. It was just
Well, I
two
think it's
guys in the
just
fire.
well, I think it was just more so the military PR machine.
Yeah,
It was like, oh, he was a savior to because what's real, he did save people,
yeah,
and no, they thought that he at least should got recognition, and I can definitely see no Joyce talking to whoever the guy's name is that was in season
Bob.
through. Yeah, Bob. No, the guy. He's the guy who's the doctor for Will. Is that Bob?
Oh, Dr. Owens.
Yeah, Dr. Owens. I can definitely see Joyce talking like, yeah, he deserves something.
Yeah,
He saved all of us. Like, because they all interviewed everybody there,
yeah,
and
and it,
no, I can definitely see like, yeah, he should be immortalized. I can
yeah,
definitely see a small town like that do something like that,
yeah,
even if it wasn't even no the proper thing to do. That makes sense.
yeah.
So,
And as cringy as that whole speech and scene was, it does kind of help also remember to put into perspective that this is a town that's grieving.
very
Because
much so.
all of season three, it's like it's kind of glanced over. Like we know there were people that died, but it's like the mind flayer consumed so many people. We have no idea how many people were consumed to create him because that one scene where we saw in the basement was just a whole flock of people.
Yeah,
And this is a small town, so who knows how large of the population was consumed by the mind flayer. So it's a grieving town that's just scarred at this point.
yeah, very much so. So with that, we get the issue comes up for Mike and Dustin of Eddie not budging on his game and kind of Whitby pressuring the boys. Like it's like, oh, when I saw you two, no, you two, no, also stick like a sore thumb. Um, and I thought very funny where I wonder what Lucas looked like on his first day of school,
Mm.
and because he of course he pointed out with Mike and Dustin, I'm like, oh, you two, you
Dustin was
two
wearing a Weird Al shirt.
I took you to underneath my wings, uh, and I see you guys fitting into our social clique, like, their own clique of the weird kids.
Yeah,
So he tasks them like if Lucas isn't playing, you think you need another person, find someone.
yep.
And they had a little montage of them going around. I thought the wrestler in the background was funny.
Hmm.
Them wrestling, the guy gives a nice little cup check. And I'm like, oh, come on, man! Like I can't wait to put that in there. It's like, really?
It was a montage in its own right of trying to find a substitute.
Yep. And then uh, Dustin, after their awful uneventful shorts, and that's when Mike busted into the newsroom like Nancy, and like everybody's looking at him like, what is this freshman doing? And it's like, do you want to play D&D? And she's like, get the hell out of here. But Dustin gets the bright idea, like, oh, we don't have to look in this school, and then runs off to the hills. And as we find out, he recruits Erica.
The protege from the end of season three. There's a reason we saw them hand off the D&D board for a reason.
Yep, and honestly, great choice. That was some good thinking about Dustin, and
Mhm.
uh, we get this great scene of Erica faces to face with Eddie, and Eddie's like, "This is who you brought, this
I
girl,
knew you would
this
appreciate this.
child,"
Yeah, I was.
and and Erica is like, "Excuse me." Like, oh man, she just rips into
not
him.
not
I
just the
am
not just the sass, but just the amount of detail of how she just rips off her character's name and details. Like, bitch, you don't know who I am. Like, I am Lady Applejack.
even like the juniors, like, no, your typical like, no, keyboard warriors are like, oh shit, she knows what she's
Even Eddie
talking
was
about.
taken back. He's like,
No,
okay,
no,
I
no,
underestimated this one.
and Eddie was like, oh. And he was like, put it here. Like that was a firm handshake. It was like, all right, you're in. Like I
Yep.
could like that's the thing. Like Eddie, he mentions it. He mentions it before. Like I don't care who you are, but if you're yourself, then you're cool with me.
Yep.
And like just be afraid to express it. And when Erica was like, I know what I'm doing here, and again, like there's a bit of a gatekeeping here, but like at the same time, Erica's shows her worth immediately, and Erica and Eddie recognizes like, yeah, okay, I see what you brought her. Yeah, she's
Yep.
good.
And it shows another layer of Eddie because, like, obviously on the initial viewing of him, we see him as kind of a psychotic person, but this is like he's very passionate. Is kind of a better way to describe him at this point because he just
Mm-hmm.
wants people to have fun
Passion is a
doing
good way
what
to put it,
doing what he enjoys doing.
and I will get that a little later when we get into our last story arc that we'll get over. But passion is a good way to put that. His overall is like an entertainer in a way.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to put it. So meanwhile, this whole D&D game going, we have Lucas who is currently playing for his championship, and turns out that we have a nice little back and forth game. Nancy's covering the game, and um, we have an interaction with Vicky and Robin in the stands while Steve is uh, back at it again,
Yep.
finding out who he is.
Yep.
So he's dating this girl Brenda, it looks like, and he's like, he kind of even gets to look at Robin like whatever, like not because he like honestly you can see like he's actually looking for a connection, and he and Robin's trying to help him out and like discover, but also Robin's going through her own shit. And like, so who is the one that she wants to date?
Vicky.
Oh, so she does want to date Vicky.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Vicky is the girl she has a crush on. And when they were in the car talking, Steve was basically telling her, I think she's a lesbian, like she's into boobies kind of thing, because in the
Yes.
movie that
Yeah.
she
She
turned
she
in,
stopped. She stopped at 53 minutes in the movie, and it's
yep,
like, who
where the
doesn't love
girl was topless.
boobies?
He's like, she loves boobies. Just ask her. And Robin's too afraid to come out in public because obviously that's a big deal, but she's afraid to come out to Vicky and have Vicky reject her.
Especially in the 80s.
Yeah.
And like, no, because she makes a very good point to Steve where she'll see like, yeah, if you get rejected, you just go to the next person. For me, if I get rejected, then I'm a pariah to all the
Yep.
town and to the society. And I think I'm glad that they put that scene in there because no, for those who don't know, because what's real, the 80s is a different time society wise compared to today, where LGBTQ issues are a lot more accepted. No, give or take to some more red county state areas,
Yeah.
because you could have someone from no, let's say Kansas, where things aren't as accepted. Sorry, Kansas, just throwing you out there. And it's definitely something where they have to be mindful of their audience and let them understand, hey, if you're, let's say, an 18-year-old watching this today, you may not know the impact that they might be going through, the tougher decisions they had to go through because of the fact that ostracization was something that was very well a consequence for them, or honestly, even worse. No,
Yeah.
not the ostracization of their friends, but even family. There's people who are today who are trans, who people don't accept them, and
Yep.
they literally get disowned by their own family, and they're on
It's
their own.
terrible.
So, and that was something that was a very real issue, or like even conversion camps too. Like those are
Yep.
conversion camps are still a thing today, and it's
Sadly enough.
and the 80s. Imagine that so much more worse. So it is a very real issue that goes through someone who is no who identifies as someone who is not straight, and that they have to tackle when it comes
Yep.
to their own relationships.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize it was Vicky herself because I thought because the way that how Steve presented it, I thought it would be one of the cheerleaders. And at first, my first thought was Chrissy, and I was like, wait, that's not her. That's someone else.
Yeah.
I just kind of thought that's how it was going to be. But now that makes a little more sense. But like Vicky's kind of like, at least first glance, Vicky seems like Robin in a way of like goofy person, and I definitely makes more sense why Steve's just like, just be yourself, because
Yep.
she definitely seems very much like you. And she kind of lets it slip that when Tammy Thompson starts singing and she's trying to make her career in Nashville and she's god awful, and Steve is like, even on his date with Brenda's cracking jokes with Robin, is like, I told you she's bad, like.
I'm
And
glad you picked up on who that was.
yep. No, I knew exactly who it was. It's like, ooh. And
He's like,
then
see, told you.
she let it slip to Vicky that she had a crush on Tammy Thompson.
Yep.
And Vicky's like, what? What'd you say? And that's when Robin backpedals, like, oh, we had a really hard class together with someone so, and like, but very much so, I'm pretty sure Vicky knows what she said, and you can kind of see themselves giving each other the look with each other when they're doing the pep rally stuff,
Yep.
and so there's definitely something that could be
It's the
there.
fear. They both are fearing of taking that first step and just asking.
That yeah, and that's honestly, with that dynamic in those days, completely reasonable.
Yeah.
Um, so then we get an injury happening in the game, and then Lucas is called upon to step in, and Lucas does a good job, makes some assist from we can see, makes some assists, makes some points, like he's making some baskets and doing his thing, and then we get this nice little dynamic at the end of it where we get this side by side scene of the D&D game happening at the same time as the pivotal moment of the basketball game, where Jason is Jason's wanting the ball
Yep.
because obviously he wants to be the hero. He has that complex to him.
Yep.
And to be fair, some players do deserve that kind of situation if they are that good. But no, what's real, he's definitely painted more as a villain.
Yeah.
So we get a shot, him taking his shot, because like, here, feed me the rock, gets the ball, takes his shot, gets out, rebounds, and we get the same role. And then the flip side, we have the D&D aspect where the gang's all huddled up. I was like, Vecna, who is the person that they're fighting in this D&D campaign. I never mentioned that, but Vecna is
The Cult of Vecna.
the cult of Vecna, and Vecna is a entity that is if I remember correctly, the very first Archlich, and a pretty much I won't say the first, but like one of the main antagonists in your box set D&D campaigns, and when you're following a campaign to go, like there is a specialized campaign that you follow that deals with the story arc of Vecna and how they're your party that will interact with the cult.
Mm-hmm.
Because really, your party could be more on the evil side and actually join up with them. Who knows? So they get huddled up. It's like, okay, the only two characters left alive are Dustin's character and we have Erica's character. Both in their last legs, 12 health left. Victor has 15. They're like, all right, screw it. They're in their huddle while they're in their huddle in the basketball game. It was like, all right, break. We're gonna swing out one hell to death. And Dustin gets his roll, and his roll gets 11 and misses. What they're trying to do is reach a certain height that actually adds hit. The 11 plus his modifier has to reach a certain thing that we call an armor class. If it goes past that, it does damage.
Yep.
Slightly different in D&D back then. It's called something completely different, but to modern day D&D, that's pretty much how it works.
Yeah.
And then we get the rebound so Sinclair's both get the rebounds. So Lucas gets the rebound off the basket. He steps out, makes a shot. And we have Erica going for her roll. And we have the nice little bouncing off the hoop, backboard, and it goes in. And we have Lucas the hero of the game.
Yep.
And then we have Erica, who rolls a critical 20, which is a critical hit, and pretty much guarantees that they kill Vecna on the spot. So they're both pretty much have the climax at the same time with their respective groups.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, no, they're no, we also get this kind of introduction tension now of Lucas, after his game, after being celebrated on, sees their game ends out of the classroom, wherever they were, and is kind of upset that they played because he kind of does want to do that with them. At the same time, he's caught in a life between two worlds,
Yep.
and and at the same time, he's also let's be real, he is no, what's the word I'm looking for? He is the hero. He's not the hero of the game, but he made the game winning shot, and that's a big deal.
Absolutely, and he's just trying to find his own person because, as disappointed as he was, he had this whole little rally party to go to with his team, and he was like, "All right, well, I guess they're having fun without me. I'm gonna go have fun with my new friends and go on my merry way."
Yeah. And that's real. I've been fortunate to have my own moment like that. No, very much similar where my hockey team went in high school, or high school team won the conference championship, and I had the OT winner. I was popped for a week, and that was it. And then after that week, I was like, all right, back to the normal thing. I had some
Yep.
my own awkward moments, but that was that.
It's just another fun memory to add to the rest.
Pretty much. No, I still have my wonderful plaque behind me.
Attaboy.
It's so cheap too, because it's like a piece of paper that's in one of those stupid plastic folding things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not even laminated. It's just it literally is a piece of paper. That's all it is. And it's
Yep.
in anything. I was like, all right, no. Thanks, Greater Middlesex County, for doing a real bang up job of handing these things out.
I scored a goal.
Oh man. So that's the end of that. And then the one character we have not talked about of the original gang, which there was a reason why I left it out for a reason, is Max. And
Yep.
sorry, this is a long episode, but this is a lot of shit going on.
All these episodes are going to be long for this season because they're packed in and they're long episodes.
Yeah, that's true. We do have probably another 20 minutes per episode from this what I saw.
Yeah.
So Max, when we first see her, she gets off the bus, and then she's encountered by someone, but we find out later on is a counselor, and it's like, "Hey, you missed your session on Thursday. Come see me after lunch," I think she said. And Max is like, "Yeah, whatever." And no, the counselor's definitely looking concerned. I think it's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And we later see Max on her way to the counselor's appointment. Bumps into Lucas. We find out that they had broken up, and Lucas does try to give her a ticket to the game, and Max does not show up to it. But we find out Lucas is talking to Max "Hey, you become a different person. You become a ghost yourself." And no, let's be real. Max is definitely going through a depressive episode. Episode not even the right word. She is depressed. It's simple as that. And because she literally watched her stepbrother die, even though they weren't close to each other. There was still something there. And so we get a little background between Lucas and her. On our way into the appointment, we see Chrissy, who is the cheerleader that Jason has I guess they're dating. I don't know. He says I love you.
They're a thing, I guess.
Yeah, we'll just say
it's high school with the popular kids. They break up every week.
We'll just say they're dating for ease of listening.
Yeah.
So we see her leave the counselor's office. So that was a oh, this character actually might be important. It's flagged to me. Uh, did not expect it to go that far. I didn't expect as much. I didn't expect as much information about Chrissy this episode, and then like I was like, oh, okay, she's gonna have an impact. So Lucas is talking to the guidance counselors, talking about, oh, her whole family is now split. So the
Yeah.
stepfather is now gone. We learn that Max is now living in a trailer park, and her mother has been drinking due to what has happened. Um, we don't know if it's drinking because Billy died or a combination of the divorce itself.
I mean, she's lost everything at this point because
Yes,
from what it seems like,
she's working two jobs now too.
she's kind of in the same boat as Joyce Byers, except Joyce was a little bit more resourceful. She seems,
Mm.
you know,
That's a good analogy right there. I was comparing to Joyce from season one.
Joyce did things for her kids, whereas not to say she's not doing things for Max, but they don't seem to be on the best of terms. So she's kind of
I
missing
that
coaching.
honest like that's a good point because the fact that like we have seen already where no, especially when it comes to be like no, I'm not a parent. I know you are, but like when it comes to making decisions, generally you want to do things in your kid's best interest.
Yep.
And we kind of have seen from season three where that isn't always the case. Sorry, season three, season two, that isn't always the case with Max. Where no, they do talk about how we have learned about how Max's parents got together, and then how that all came to be. And Max is like, yeah, like I don't feel like I belong here. And they just did it at their own convenience of, oh, you should have a dad and you should have a mom. Here you go, surprise.
Yep.
And it wasn't done as a proper way. And like, no, I am fortunate that I never had to deal with it. But like, for many people, a blended family is a very real thing where you have two separate families trying to become one, and if not done properly, the whole thing can just be in a blender and just be turned into nothing.
Yeah.
It could be even a worse situation than already. It could spoil. I guess is a better way to put it with the
Yeah.
blender analogy. Um, so, and we're definitely seeing where Max giving the run of the mill answers of like, oh, she's being very protective, like, oh, yeah, she's still having headaches, which we got from a scene. She's taking Tylenol in the bathroom. She denies that she's having nightmares, and then we're seeing pretty much PTSD flashback of her reliving Billy getting killed again, and no, she tells this counselor she's being open. The counselor, I'm pretty sure, is sniffing to this bullshit that she's not. Um, and yeah, she's pretty much like disassociating because you see her. She has her headphones on. She is listen to her music and trying to stay away from the world, and that's her way to do that is her music,
And like
which
Lucas called
was
her out, she's kind of just a walking ghost at this point. She's not
which
there.
she is, and I thought it was very nice with the sequence of Max and L is Kate Bush is running up that hill, which is a wonderful song. Um,
It it is the song of the season.
yes. It's fun. Fun fact: I didn't know Kate Bush originally sang "Right Up the Hill." I actually learned from a cover.
Yes, I know what cover you're talking about.
Do you?
I think so.
I don't think.
Maybe
This
not.
this is my genre of music, like yours, because you're more country esque.
I listen to all things rock and country.
It is running up the Meg Myers. That's the cover I know of. Because Meg
Oh,
Myers slaps. Like, if you heard the cover, highly recommend it. And she does the song. Like now, listening to the original Kate Bush version, she does the song very good justice. Like I thought it was, I thought it was her own song. Like and it had the '80s. I was like, oh, this is an awesome '80s vibe. I'm loving this. And I was like, oh shit, it's an actual '80s song. Who would have thought? So
Learn something new every day.
you listen to it every day. I remember. I don't. I think I was talking to my sister about this because my sister knew that. Like I was like, oh, this one song. It's like that. No, this is a cover. Like I was like, uh, oh, the more you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get into anything else you want to bring up about Max before I transition over to the second half of this?
Nope.
Okay. So after her conference, she gets talked. She talks to Lucas, goes to the bathroom, takes her Tylenol because that's her sign up for she has her headaches, and then we get hearing of someone throwing up. And Max is concerned. She inquires, like, "Hey, are you okay in there?" And then we see Chrissy throwing up in the toilet. And my first thought, "Oh shit, we have a cheerleader throwing up bulimia." And I was not expecting how dead on the nail I was on with that one.
Yep.
So Max asking, like, "You sure? Like, I can help you if you need anything." It's like, "I'm good." So Max leaves the bathroom. And then
It's the fucking fan, dude.
we get the door knocking, and Christy's like, "I told you to leave the hell alone." And then Christy hears her mother's voice saying, "Do I remember correctly? Do I need to alter that dress for you?" And then she gets to the point where I think it was this time the first iteration that she gets called a fat pig by
Yes.
her mother, and she's having this episode like, okay, and the door's rattling, then the lights start going, and then we get this figure that we see in the bathroom.
Yep.
And we're like, oh, well then, flashing lights doesn't mean, as we know from previous 3 seasons, that ain't good.
Mm-mm.
Here is our antagonist. But the things that is unique to this one is that it is humanoid.
Yep.
Which is a first that we've seen. And we get this point where she's just going through it right now, and she runs out of the bathroom stall, and there's nothing there. And then I think no, hold on, pause that. Before that, we actually hear the voice, which we kind of allude to is Vecna.
Yep.
Who's like, "You can hear me, can you?" No, acknowledging that, like, "Oh, I'm in your head now. You know I'm here." And then she runs out, nothing there. So we now find out that our wonderful boy Eddie is also the resident drug dealer. So
Are we
Chrissy,
surprised?
once I saw him, like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so she goes up to pick the bench. I'm like, my first thought was like, oh, did this voice tell her to go out this far? Oh, one more thing I forgot to mention is, no, did that? No, it didn't happen in the bathroom. The grandfather clock first happened in the woods, correct?
Grandfather clock happened right before Eddie showed up.
Yes, that's it. So yeah, I was making sure. I was like, was the clock in the woods or not? That was the thing I was trying to make sure was correct. So she arrives in the woods. She sees a grandfather's clock on the tree, and starts chiming, and then spiders come out of it, which is creepy as hell.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel bad for anyone who has arachnophobia, because that was probably a nice little shock for them.
Oh yes.
So this clock goes off, and then Eddie shows up and scares the bejeebus out of her. And that's the only thing that happened was the clock. And Eddie's the one who broke the trance for her in a way. And she looks over and the clock's now gone. And Eddie kind of sits down, like, okay, like, no, I'm surprised this has happened. I'm surprised you're here. Like, this is strange for me that most popular girl in high school, the queen of the high school, is currently asking for weed. And I'm trying to remember how the interaction went. But Eddie, like, this is where I think Eddie, being a performer, someone who entertains others, definitely kind of shows his flair of like, oh, no, kind of putting on the chops for her, like, hey, like, no, like, do you like, no. She thinks it's the first time she's ever meeting him, but like, actually, this is the second time that, no, like, do you remember me? It turns out that um, she was in some talent show thing in middle school where she did some cheerleading routine, and turns out right after was his band, Corroded Coffin.
I don't remember the name of it.
I'm pretty sure it's Corroded Coffin, something Coffin. I'm almost positive. And the so we go, so they start reminiscing, and she's like, I didn't realize, no, I didn't realize this was you as a person. And Eddie kind of does the same thing. It's like, yeah, I didn't realize this was you as a person either. And she does ask for him. It's like, no, it's like, how I know, because we have some good interaction. No, for this half, I'll give you 15. I'll give you 25% off, $15. You're robbing me here.
Yeah.
And she's like, do you have anything stronger? And Eddie's like, yeah, I do. Come see
It's
me
not. It's
later.
not the response any of us were expecting from someone like Chrissy.
Yeah. Well, after seeing this random grandfather clock in the wall, I'm not surprised anymore.
Yeah.
I was, again, first person knowledge on this. Um, and then we get to the climax where we see Max. Um, she's at home. Her mother's passed out on the couch. No, Max cleans the beer cans. There's some dog barking. Max brings out food for it. And as she's bringing out food and feeding this dog, that's, I guess, the neighbor's dog, she sees Chrissy and Eddie go into the Eddie's trailer. I hear you call it the Munson trailer. I know it's his last name, but like, that's just weird to me. And
I was making a kind of a joke because it's like the new Byers household because the Byers house is where all the creepy shit happened in season 1 and 2.
well, let's see. Well, we have one incident.
Hey, that was
So,
a fucking crazy ass incident. I think that qualifies it.
oh well, again, we have the Byers household had multiple instances over a long period of time. That
But
place is
nothing to this extreme though.
well. I wouldn't
Let,
say
let,
that.
let's get to Chrissy. What
Yes.
happens to Chrissy, and then we'll get.
So Max sees them both go into this room. So Max has knowledge of like, oh, these two were together, and Eddie's looking for searching through drugs, and then Chrissy has a crazy in-depth hallucination. I would call it hallucination because the fact that like hallucination is something you think it's happening. To me, this is more like an illusion
It
because
could be an illusion, yeah.
like she's in this place. Like an hallucination, you think something's there, like you're still in presently there, but see something. To me, she's just in her own brain. Like this is something where it's like an illusion going on in her brain, in herself, and we see her opening and closing these doors. She hears her mother's voice. Also, no, we can obviously tell the reason that she is bulimic is because her mother has these. Let's be real, like white cheerleader girl expectations for her. Like she's better be the most popular. She better fit in these dresses. Can't be fat. These kind of things, and really driving her own issues.
Yep.
And then we see her. And I think it's very very interesting. Where did we ever find out? Because I don't. Did we ever find out if? Because we know we know she was in the um the I want to say conference room, but it's with the therapist, counselor's room. That's what I was working for.
Yes.
So we know she was the counselor. Did we know that she had anyone pass away? Is that
Mm,
confirmed or not?
I don't think it's confirmed. I think she was going for her own personal issues, most likely.
Because the reason I'm saying this is because the fact that we actually never see the mother, but we do see the father, and who the father she does run to. So I'm playing armchair psychologist here. Again, I took some college classes, nothing great, but I do love diving into this stuff. What I grasp from this is that her mother is the actual reason for her issues, and I can definitely see the reason I bring up if she had someone die is I could see the mother's death triggering these kind of things too, where she is the cause of this trauma, and then possibly Vecna's are able to take that trauma and absorb it because the fact that let's real if the upside down is connected to Vecna, which obviously I'm assuming it is the maybe the flare has some connection to Vecna, and Vecna has a way to um, embody those that the flare has eaten or became one of itself, and take some energy is not the right word, but memories from them or know of them. It has a way to manipulate his well, at this point victim. At this point, we don't know why he's doing. We don't know his motivations, but we know he's doing this for a reason, probably.
I
But
like that theory, but I won't say anything.
but we see her comfort is with her father because she actually was like she runs to her father for comfort,
Yep.
and then we see him. His mouth is sewed shut.
Stone shut.
I believe he's stuck in this chair,
Yep.
and then we get this final image of Vecna. Well, she tries to leave the front door, and we see Vecna approaching her. At first, it was her mother's voice, and then became his own voice. And shit, I wish I had the. I should have probably wrote the quotes down what he said because I feel like that's important. Like this
He's
will be,
basically projecting their own fear and issues
yeah.
into her head. Is essentially what he was doing.
But the thing is though, he said something at the very end of the episode, which did catch my eye, and I didn't write it down sadly, where it's like, uh, this will be your suffering. Like claiming there's a reason why she's receiving this as punishment. That's who I grasped it as. Like this is a punishment for something that you did. Um, kind of like a
I like
kind
where you're going.
kind of like because let's like I'm thinking like Catholicism has this kind of things too, where you have archangels who are seen as good entities, but at the same time are literally a act of judgment upon a a righteous person possibly. And I'm kind of curious is Vecna is the upside down version of that. So I am very curious how this goes. And then at the very end, we get a very graphic scene of we get Christy, which Eddie is trying to snap her out of this, and she's fucking gone. And Chrissy starts levitating, which the fuck?
That's my cue to fucking run.
That's like exorcist things.
Uh huh.
And then we get the bone snap. Like Vecna turns his hand, and
That
the bones
that
start
did it for me.
snapping.
I just again, this is my first
Ooh,
time rewatching
baby.
this, and I just remember the first time I watched this, I knew that this season was going to be intense. Like the bathroom scene was one thing; it was creepy, it was intense, but this took it to a whole nother level. Just visually seeing all the joints like just pop and snap out of place, I was like, oh god, like oh
So my reaction was, oh, this is already happening. We're already in the thick of this already. Like we
mhm.
went from character introduction to character death
Happy
in
sunny California to dark fucked up Hawkins, Indiana.
like we went from full character arc of one character and already dead.
Hmm.
And I'm like, holy we this is gonna get crazy. So
But
this was
the joints were one thing, but the jaw and the eyes were really what gave it
ah,
just
uh,
that like horror demon esque kind of vibe to it.
yeah, the eyes like they get sunken in.
They were gouged out.
Yeah, it was
I
still.
think they were gouged out, but like into the head. I don't think they.
But if you're Eddie, holy shit, what do you do?
Uh, Piss myself and scream like Eddie did because he was horrified.
I
And
know.
props to the actor because he
Great job,
genuinely looked
fantastic
terrified.
job. But also, I'm assuming Max has heard the scream. I'm like I. This is the first time in a I will admit in a Stranger Things episode. I'm hating myself to wait for the next episode because the fact I want to know what happens. There are so many good things happening. Like
Well, hey, motherfucker, you're the one who's already technically kind of seen some of this season.
I know, and I'm still riveted by this because there is so many loose ends. Are they going to hide the body? Is Eddie gonna like how is Eddie going to say I didn't kill this girl? How the hell can I do this? Who's
Well,
going to believe him?
I'm
Is
very
Max going to
glad that
believe
you're
him?
asking these questions because it helps me realize
Oh,
you don't remember much about this season at all.
I remember again. It was like I seen
'Cause
like maybe two episodes.
a lot of the questions you just asked, they cover in the next episode.
Oh, I hope so
So,
because the fact that we left off on this.
well, I thought you had seen episode 2, so I thought you knew these
No,
things.
I do not
I
know this.
don't remember.
I do not know this, and
Excellent.
I
Okay.
am giddy. I I'm not going to say anything of what I know, but I still, honestly, me knowing what I do already makes me even more
Yeah.
geared up. Like, ooh,
Now, a
ooh.
quick note on Chrissy's character from a fun fact side of things. Her character was influenced from Jaws and The Nightmare on Elm Street. The Jaws aspect, because I see your face looking confused as hell.
Jaws is the one I'm like, Nightmare on Elm Street, I can
So
understand. Also, Vecna, I can
it
also see that too, where it's like very Freddy Krueger like. I saw
yes.
like a kind of like a wet zombie.
Well, there's even more details to that. So in Jaws, the first victim of Jaws was the character Chrissy Watkins.
Oh,
He was
okay.
named after the first victim of Jaws, and Jaws was a film the Duffer Brothers loved. The Nightmare on Elm Street aspect touches on Chrissy and Eddie. Eddie's character is
Hmm.
supposed to resemble Rod, who witnessed the telepathic killing of his girlfriend Tina, basically where her insides were ripped out telepathically by an unseen force, and Rod went on the run and basically looked like a murderer.
I can imagine.
And that's going to be kind of what we see with Eddie because Eddie witnessed the murder of Chrissy. How the fuck is he going to explain what happened to Chrissy? Because he was the only person to witness it aside from Max.
That's a nice little intersection of that.
Yeah,
I'm glad you didn't spoil that for me when it came on this show, Doc.
yeah,
Um, yeah, but this is a. I am. Is this? That was a hell of a cliffhanger.
yes.
Like, whew.
It's definitely it sets up a lot what's going to get answered in the next episode, and it only goes downhill from here. It's a dark season. I know you've seen some of it, but it's a very dark season.
Well,
Psychological.
I only saw one. Honestly, at this point, I want to say I remember one clear episode. That's all I'm
Okay.
saying. One episode, I was like, "Ooh, this is good." Which is a very like honestly, I have to watch one of the best, like, as I've heard one of the best episodes. it's kind of definitely lining up into it. Um, yeah, I don't want to. I kind of already talked about predictions and stuff because I've been dissecting a lot of this.
Yes, I think
So
we can dive right into ratings because I mean this is going to be a very intense season to go through and very long because these episodes are hefty as hell. And
uh,
hopefully, we will not have any instances like we did with season 3 where we have long bits of time between episodes. I hope to get this done quick so it's not as torturous for you.
yeah. I don't know what I don't have it up currently, but I'm going off the cuff. I'm telling you right now, 9.2. I loved. There were so I. There were so many things that I loved about this episode. Um, I thought the character development was very strong. I thought that like the cinematography of it, like did they out of all the premieres, this one out of the park. Like I I I'm shocked how much I'm still reeling from this episode of the ending scene of like I thought they were gonna have a nice little relationship between Eddie and Chrissy. I'm like, oh, they might have a little fling going on, whatever. Nope, gone.
They
Oh
flip Eddie's
man.
life upside down in this episode.
But the thing is, like, there were so many things that the ripples from because again, the foundation. Mitchell sent us a text earlier. Uh, how he called this episode again? Because he did give us his rating, and um, he called this what was it? What was it? Yeah, groundwork. The episode of laying things out, but like even though this was groundwork, I do think that there is so much. I think 9.2 might be a little high, but at the same time, I'm not mad at making that rating for it because like I guess the California storyline's running a little slow, but like
Yeah.
that's expected though because the fact that they again this is unfamiliar ground for everyone, and
Well, not only that, but it's also in terms of this season, the California crew. This is supposed to be them in peacetime. Like for all intents and purposes, the Upside Down's gone. Everybody should be relaxing, enjoying life. So California, they have no idea what's going on,
oh
and
yeah, no, yeah, yeah.
Hawkins is about to be flipped on its head again.
And I just remember too, Mike's caught on a plane in not in what 9 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Yep.
that's so Mike's gonna be in California, and he's have to get relayed what the hell's going on back then. Like, what's Max gonna do? Because is Max gonna link up with the party? Like I'm assuming she's gonna go to Eddie's. My assumption is that she's gonna go to Eddie's house. Eddie's gonna say this wild shit just happened in front of me, and I do think Max will believe him. And at the same time, like also the fuck, and I'm just pumped. I am pumped. Your rating.
Mine is a 9.4.
Wow, even higher than I am. I don't feel
Yeah,
that bad anymore
I
anymore.
love. Again, this is my first rewatch of this season, but I've saved it for this reason because I loved this season when it came out. I'm a big horror fan. I love Nightmare on Elm Street is probably one of my favorite horror franchises, and this was heavily influenced from Nightmare on Elm Street, so it checks all my boxes for just an exciting show to watch. And I agree, the California plotline is a little slow, but it's deserving to be slow. It's allowed to be slow at this point.
Honestly, I'm gonna looking at the ratings. I'm gonna be fair. I'm gonna put a 9.4 as well
Attaboy.
because the fact that I'm looking like season 3, episode 3, 9.1, 9.3. I'm like, nah, this is 9.4. Again, the 9.2 was like off. Like again, trying to rate this properly with all the episodes. I thought that was again out of the park.
Yeah.
Mitchell gave us also a pretty high score for his liking, compared to his averages, 8.16. So he wasn't as high on as we were, but I'm not surprised. It's Mitchell. Um, and yeah, so you said 9.4. Well, yeah, this was fantastic. Woo, baby, love it. Oh, I
Yeah,
am
next week now.
jonesing right now. All right.
That's all I
That's
got.
it's
Been
sorry.
a
Sorry,
hell
about
of
this for an hour
episode.
40 for this
A
one.
lot to talk about. A lot to look forward to for next episode.
I had a lot of in-depth stuff, and I'm sorry that I just happened to just keep going
That's all
deeper,
right.
deeper, deeper into the rabbit hole. So follow us on our socials, Jersey Nerds Productions, Stranger Nerds. Follow also the Mitchell's podcast with the Plus Play
Press play
Action.
action.
Remembered it. Let's go, me. um, so, yeah, on our socials, X, Instagram, all that fun jazz. And that'll be it for this week. I am hopefully with us for next week because I am so pumped. Let's go, baby. I'll see you next week. Bye bye.